Hey there. Grace and peace to you all today. I am Captain Roger McCord from the Hanford Corps of the Salvation Army. Welcome to the Shield Online, our weekly worship and study time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, Christmas is not my favorite holiday. That's something which I'm sure comes as no surprise to most people who know me. We do a lot of very unholy things and then say we're using them to celebrate the very holy birth of Jesus, which we all know didn't even happen in December, but I'm not going there this year. Christmas, as you probably know, is not one of the holidays set apart in Scripture. There are a bunch of them, a lot of holidays in there, which people are supposed to all celebrate together, days like Passover and events like the Festival of Unleavened Bread or the Feast of First Fruits, or my very favorite of the ancient holidays, Sukkot, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. It was a joyous occasion set aside to remind people how the Lord had been present with them during the Exodus. And God led them from a pillar of cloud during the day, and at night shone out from a pillar of fire, giving them light even in the deepest darkness. Kind of like a spiritual and physical nightlight. Yeah. You know, one of my neighbors has some of those light up Christmas characters in their yard. They've got a 12-foot Jack Skellington in a Santa suit on one side and a 14-foot abominable snowman in their front yard and a gigantic 2-story tall Rudolph with a red nose that shines like a laser beam towering over their garage. And you might think that's pretty cool, right? Yeah, that is nothing. Nothing. In Jesus' days, Sukkot included its own special representation of God's presence. On the last night, at the temple in Jerusalem, 4 giant candelabras were lit in this large outdoor area called the Court of Women. They were 75 feet high, and they had 4 10-gallon bowls on each candelabra filled with oil to light. Now, the whole thing was sacred, so they couldn't just burn any old wicks in that oil. So the temple priests... I promise this is absolutely true. The temple priests would donate their used sacred underwear, and then it would be all twisted up, floated in the oil, and lit on fire. And I really am desperately trying not to make a joke about getting your panties in a bunch. Now, did you get that these were 75 feet high? Take that, you dinky 2-story Rudolph. Now, the temple sat on a hill up above the rest of the city, and as darkness settled in, 4 young priests would climb up ladders to the golden candelabra, somehow carrying these giant 10-gallon pitchers of oil to fill the bowls. And then they would light the wicks and scurry down the ladders while the flames curled upwards into a giant blaze. That is 16 giant lights with pillars of flame rising from the highest point in Jerusalem. We're told that it lit up the whole city. The priests, they'd step back to admire their handiwork, and there'd be laughing and cheering and music and dancing, and then the celebration would start. But this one year, something happened. Just as they lit the flames, this voice rang out from the crowd below. "I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life." Who is this? Who was the source of light, of life? Jesus. Jesus, about whom John wrote, and this was John chapter 1, verse 4, he wrote, "The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone." See, those who follow Jesus have the light which brings life to darkness. Now, the Pharisees, they jumped on this thing that he said about being the light of the world. They recognized that claim Jesus was making was extraordinary. And it turned into an argument about who Jesus' Father is. And Jesus pointed out that they should know who his Father is because he said, look, there's a family resemblance. Well, you know how that works, right? Children resemble their parents, and parents resemble their children, too. I'm going to use my daughter Heather as an example because she's not here to object. She is literal and argumentative, just like me. And she uses emojis when she texts, so when I communicate to her, I use emojis because that's her language, right? She is like me, and I am like her. You can see some of me in her and some of her in me, and we resemble each other, even though she is a beautiful young woman who does not look like me at all. Now, there was this other time. Another time, in the last days before his arrest and execution and resurrection, when a follower of Jesus said, "Oh, show us the Father," to which Jesus said, "Look, don't you get it yet?" And we're in John chapter 14 here, by the way. Jesus said, "Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. Just believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe because of the work you have seen me do." Now, what work was that? It was the work of bringing light to darkness. It could be seen in everything Jesus did. It was particularly visible in the ways that he healed the blind and raised the dead. Blindness and death were and are symbols of ultimate darkness, yet Jesus simply erased them, the way that darkness is erased by the presence of light. This is the light, he says, his followers will have as well, the light of life. Darkness should disappear in our presence as we reflect the light of Jesus to the world around us. The author of 1 John, the first epistle of John, reminded us of this in his letter, 1 John chapter 2, verses 7 through 11. And I'm reading from the New Living Translation today, although I'm going to make a small adjustment in this passage we'll talk about right afterwards. 1 John 2, starting at verse 7. "Dear friends, I am not writing a new commandment for you, rather it is an old one you have had from the very beginning. This old commandment, to love one another, is the same message you heard before, yet it is also new. Jesus lived the truth of this commandment, and you also are living it. For the darkness is disappearing, and the true light is already shining. If anyone claims, 'I am living in the light,' but hates a brother or sister, that person is still living in darkness. Anyone who loves a brother or sister is living in the light and does not cause others to stumble. But anyone who hates a brother or sister and is still living and walking in darkness," sorry, I missaid that. Let me do that again. "But anyone who hates a brother or sister is still living and walking in darkness. Such a person does not know the way to go, having been blinded by the darkness." What does all this talk about brothers and sisters? If you're reading in the NLT, you might see that where I put brothers and sisters, there's a different word that they use in their translation. But here's the deal. It's the Greek word, adelphos, that's being translated. It means those who share a fellowship of life. Now, it can be narrowed down to refer to members of the same tribe or other people group. Some translations use the phrase fellow believers or just brothers to translate the Greek into English, but it is best read here as meaning all of humankind. We all share this fellowship of life. Every human bears the image of God. We are all beloved children of God. Yes, all, even that person you just thought of because you don't think that they should be. Now, as children of God, as bearers of the light of life, we have a choice to make. Will we share the light or will we try to hide it? There's an old Brazilian proverb: if you turn your back to the light, you will only see your shadow. Hating or refusing to love a brother or sister in this world is like turning your back on the light, like trying to blind yourself with darkness. That is not what people God created should be doing, though. Look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1. "Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children." Now, Paul, the early church leader who wrote this in Ephesians, he goes on to point out that greed, the ultimate expression of selfishness, is a form of idolatry. It's turning away from the light to follow darkness. He says we've all been like that, but we shouldn't be anymore. Go farther in his letter to Ephesians chapter 5, verses 8 through 14. It says, "For once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. It is shameful even to talk about the things that ungodly people do in secret. But their evil intentions will be exposed when the light shines on them, for the light makes everything visible. This is why it's said, Awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light. We can and should use the light to eliminate the darkness. Rise up from the dead, wake up to the light, and let it shine. This has always been the purpose for God's children, to shine the light. Even go back all the way to Isaiah chapter 60. The beginning of Isaiah chapter 60. It says, Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all to see, for the glory of the Lord rises to shine on you. Darkness, as black as night, covers all the nations of the earth, but the glory of the Lord rises and appears over you. All nations will come to your light. Mighty kings will come to see your radiance. As children of the light, we are to expose what darkness tries to hide and let the light we reflect guide all people of the world back to the source. Live as children of the light. All right. Are you confused or uncertain about what that means? Are you wondering how one becomes a child of light? Well, Jesus said this, John chapter 12, verse 36. Put your trust in the light while there is still time. Then you will become children of the light. Trust in the light. Oh, who's this light we're supposed to trust in? Well, that question takes us right back to where we started. John 8:12. Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life. Dag Hammarskjöld said that we are like a lens in a beam of light. We don't create the light, we receive it. And if we receive it like a lens, we only possess it while we are in the beam and that light shines through us to the world. Now, the Lord was with God's people in the Exodus, leading the way, lighting the darkness so that no one would stumble. The Lord is with us too. If all you can see are shadows, you're not facing the light. So be a child of the light. Live as a child of the light. Turn your back on the darkness. Let the light of life shine through you. Bring light into the darkness. Let the darkness run away. If you follow Jesus, you don't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life. So live as a child of the light, the way that God intended. Amen? I hope so. Whoever you are, wherever you think you have gotten yourself to, whatever circumstances or situation blows up around you, remember this. You have nothing to fear because there is nowhere you can be, no situation you can be, and no anything you can do to put yourself in a position where God isn't already there. What you need to do is turn and go with God. Grace and peace to each and every one of you in the coming week. I will see you next time.